Bonjour. It is day 12 of Scarin Karen's 13 Days of Halloween. And today we are talking about Scream. Do you like the scary movies?
Oui. I didn't know if you wanted me to answer you.
I love that you put up with my ridiculousness
Yeah.
because a big part of why I like to do things is I just don't get enough chances to be outright ridiculous. So whenever I can be, I like it. And thank you for putting up with me. I know that not everybody likes it.
Yeah.
But today we're talking about Scream from 1996, a movie that made an impact on a generation. Directed by Wes Craven, of course, of Last House on the Left fame, as well as, didn't he make a
Nightmare on
movie
Elm
about
Street.
Fred somebody?
Yeah. Everyone knows that one.
An
So much the other one.
ophthalmologist from West Virginia's favorite movie is The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
Get it? Get it? That's where all my work comes from. This movie was written by Kevin Williamson, who wrote a lot of maybe Dawson's Creek or something.
Yes, he did that one, and he also did I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I totally see like the young drama love from this guy.
Yes.
This movie, I think a big secret to the success is this movie took essentially 90210 and made it horror.
Yeah.
And self-aware horror. And I can't wait to talk about this. This is a Mount Rushmore movie probably for me, and we'll go into why as we're talking about our experience with it. But it's starring two of my favorite actors, Henry Winkler and Jamie Kennedy.
Jamie Kennedy, really?
No, I hate Jamie Kennedy, but I love Henry Winkler.
Yeah.
And I just, like I said, I can't pass up. The more obvious the joke, the harder it is for me to pass up. Did you happen to recognize any of these other obscure horror movie actors
Yeah.
other than Jamie Kennedy and Fonzie?
Yeah, Nev Campbell.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Nev Campbell. Now, please don't get mad at me, but back in the 90s, I thought
I
she
know
was
you liked
sweet.
her and Denise Richards in that movie that they did together where they made out in the pool.
It's called Wild Things.
Yeah,
It's AFI's #1 best scene of all time. I looked it up. Who else is in it besides Nev Campbell? We start off with somebody we've already talked about.
Oh,
this
yes,
Halloween.
Drew Barrymore. Yeah.
Beautiful cameo out of her.
I think that was great.
And her
to get
history
people-
with horror as a young
yeah,
child.
Get
It
people
just
to
gets-
watch it, though, I think. They see a familiar face right at the beginning. I think that's
Yeah.
how they suck you in.
And also, I think this was one of the first movies to kill off who was probably the biggest star at the time in the open. Well, Henry Winkler might have been a bigger star than
I don't know.
Drew
Not in this
Barrymore.
genre, though. Like, Drew Barrymore, I think, was pretty big at the time.
Yeah, but,
Well,
you know.
especially with E.T. and stuff. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
he did his TV show, but she was in a
Come
lot of
on.
movies.
You dare besmirch the reputation of Arthur Fonzarelli.
Yeah.
Look, we are a Fonzie first household here, Karen.
Yeah, sure.
What about Skeet Ulrich?
I don't think I recognized him. Like, I know him now, and I know
Yeah.
him from those movies, but at the time that I watched it, I don't think he was recognizable. But, I mean, he was Jughead's dad. And
Yeah, I think this
Archie.
movie is the only reason I know who Skeet Ulrich is.
Yeah.
Like, if it weren't for this movie, I would have only known him as Archie's dad, I
Yeah.
guess. And the only reason he's Archie's dad is he was a teen heartthrob,
Yeah.
and they were kind of cast an adult. You know, like, wasn't Molly Ringwald or somebody like that in that show, too?
Yeah. Well, I think in this, I'm happy that they picked him. He really had that look of the like bad boy boyfriend. Anyway,
I think a lot of the references I saw online was intentionally a James Dean appearance. And
okay.
Kevin Williamson, the writer, is, he makes no secret of the fact he's an openly gay male. And there's some James Dean imagery that he says is kind of iconic in the gay community. And that this was a little bit of gay coding where you could appeal to a gay audience without making your characters overtly and openly gay.
Yeah.
Although I think we have some discussion about a certain relationship in this movie that makes us wonder if one person was more into the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, so Matthew Lillard,
Who
probably
your friend Bree's a big fan
my
of.
favorite character in this movie, just because he's just like super funny. He's the class clown, and I was really good friends with people like that when I was in school, and of course you're like that too, just the silliness. But
Mais non.
yeah, and then Rose McGowan, she played her best friend Tatum.
I think, like, if you just ask me, what do you think about Rose McGowan? I usually say, I don't really have much opinion on Rose McGowan, nothing positive or negative. I like her in this movie.
I do too.
Yeah,
She
I
just
think
plays
this
that
might be
like
my
quirky,
favorite.
strong like sidekick girl.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
might be my favorite Rose McGowan. This is just a star packed.
it is.
I'm sure we
I
haven't
mean,
even.
they're heavily starred. Like now, I think this is what
Well,
launched a lot of their.
but I mean,
careers,
we also have Courtney Cox and David Arquette when they're
Yes.
both flying high at this point. Courtney Cox is coming off Friends, or she's still on
She's
Friends.
still in Friends.
Yeah, which is amazing. And
they met on this set and fell in love on this set of this first movie.
And
then
David
he showed up in
Arquette-
Friends too.
Hadn't David Arquette done some stuff before this?
Oh yeah.
And I mean, he's from one of the well-known families in Hollywood, the Arquettes. So of course he's a big star at this time. She hits me in the head a lot. I've got recurrent concussive syndrome. Okay, so it was made for a budget of $14.5 million, which is a respectable but not over the top budget. The cast that they assembled means that's probably the bare minimum budget they could make this movie for. And it didn't do half bad. It made more than 10 times its budget. The box office return was $173 million against $14.5 million. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up making a sequel to this someday.
They've made a lot of.
There's
sequels.
like 8 sequels at this point, I think, and that box office return is part of why this is now one of the kings of franchise horror, right there with Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. Okay. Before we go any further, I got to give everybody a spoiler warning. I feel like Scream has pervaded the public consciousness to the point that even if you haven't seen the movie, you know what it's about. But just in the rare event that you don't know Ghostface's identity, you don't know some of the plot twists in this movie, well, we're going to spoil them, each and every one of them, if we do our job properly. So if you don't want to watch that, you need to watch something else. However, as always, I respect your autonomy because I am not your father. So do what you want. Oh boy, this synopsis, I felt like, what's the point? Everybody knows what Scream's about, so I just tried to say like the impression it makes on me. So will you forgive me, give me a little artistic license since I'm wearing a beret?
I guess.
Okay, so my synopsis is the slasher genre is reinvigorated by a killer who is aware of horror movie tropes.
That's a little too detailed, I think.
Okay, your turn.
I mean, someone is killing teenagers. That's,
Okay.
I mean, that's all you have to say. Someone is killing teenagers and
the thing I love most about this movie is its self-awareness in the way that the slasher genre was pretty much considered dead. And Wes Craven brought it back and said, what is dead may never die, to quote Game of Thrones. And it just crushed the summer, fall. I don't know when it came out, crushed the box office. So that's the part of the movie that I like the most. So I had to that's why I asked you to forgive me for being self-indulgent before that synopsis.
I think if I had read that on a box when I wanted to watch it, I would have been like, meh, I wouldn't have watched it. It's just too much.
Well, this is something you're allowed to say almost 30 years later.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be good the weekend of release.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you discovered this movie?
Yes, I saw it at the movie theater.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I was in high school when it came out, so I'm sure that my dad, either he went with me or he just dropped me and some friends off, or my boyfriend at the time, to go see it. So I'm pretty sure I absolutely saw it in the movie theater.
So you were in high school when you saw this. I saw this on video. It was probably either late 96 or early 97. I was in medical school while you were in high school. That's a little creepy. But it was just dominating conversation at medical school. There's only about 50 of us in a class, but it felt like everybody but me was just talking about this movie. So I go to Blockbuster, get it. I watch it in my apartment alone, and I start hearing noises upstairs and stuff. I can't tell you. Now, watching this now, you may not get it. But at the time I watched it, the idea of somebody calling you on your telephone, we didn't really have a lot of cell phones.
No.
Somebody calling you on your telephone while you're talking to them, suddenly they're seeing you.
Yeah.
That creeped me out. I had like these big sliding glass doors in my kitchen that went out to this little patio on the apartment. And I could just imagine somebody sneaking in through there or something and calling me from inside.
Yeah.
Anyway, this movie scared the bejeebers out of me.
Mm-hmm.
So that is how I was 26. No, I wasn't 26. I was 22 when I watched it. So being 22 and still getting the bejeebers scared out of you, that's quite the accomplishment. So this movie really imprinted upon me, and I became such a big fan that I ran out to the theater to watch I Know What You Did Last Summer opening weekend, and it was not Scream. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I was like 16, 17, so I was around the age of the kids that were being portrayed in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, they're a lot older. They looked a lot older to us back then, but we were, I think that's what I could relate to. It was that it was like right around my age. We also had, the phones in our house, like the cordless phones, but I think one of the striking things was like we never had a cordless phone look like a sat phone. I mean, that phone was huge like that.
We actually did in the apartment I was living in when I saw this. We had that
crazy.
Exact same model
ours
with the metal antenna.
Ours was the flat one, that laid down, and so it bent around. But it wasn't like the big, like boxity, like Zach Morris looking phone.
We had the one with the metal antenna on the handset that you had to pull up. But yes, so I related to that phone. Related to that.
But also,
story.
I relate to the conversation. Like when she answered the phone and he just started talking to her. I mean, that's what we were told to do back then. We just talked to people. We didn't really hang up on people or like not answer it because we didn't have the text message or whatever. And we wouldn't let it go to, I'm pretty sure my grandmother, because I was raised by my grandma, like told us if the phone rings, you answer it. You only let the answering machine get it if you're not there.
Used to. In 1994, 1995, 1996, you actually had to pay for caller ID. Like caller ID wasn't built into your phone.
Yeah.
After this movie came out, caller ID subscriptions went up 300%.
That's
how much
surprised.
It creeped out the community. They wanted to know who was calling before they answered that phone. So I love that little bit of trivia. But it is a product of its time. I don't know how much a younger person who is not accustomed to the strange transitional state of technology in 1996. Like we had the internet, but it wasn't like it is now. We had cell phones, but they were literally just phones. We didn't have very much texting or caller ID and things like that. So I don't know how relatable it would be to younger folks.
No. In 96, we didn't really have cell phones.
But the nice thing is Scream has continued to make new movies and reinvent itself to match with the present day. So who knows?
Yeah.
It's a pretty amazing franchise in that. It's not even 30 years old yet, but I've already declared this a classic. Do you agree that this is a classic, or does it need to be older first?
No, I think it's a classic too. It's old enough. Yeah.
It's probably the youngest. I dare not say that because every time I say something, I always end up having to go back and contradict myself. But it is one of the newer, if not the newest, films that I consider a horror movie classic. And I don't just mean a classic. I mean, in 100 years, it may be looked back at as the horror movie franchise. It's you can't really say that.
I don't know. I still think that like the 80s when they did Nightmare on Elm Street, those things are still. I do. And Halloween are still considered classic.
The reason I say in like 200 years is we still have living memory and what it was like to live through it. But if once that living memory is gone and you're going back and rewatching them, there's a lot of bad entries in those Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th series.
Yeah.
I don't think there's that many like really bad entries in Scream. Of course, I haven't seen them all either. So I'm talking a little bit out of my armpit. But
what do you mean by like bad entries?
Bad entry? Like Nightmare on Elm Street 5 is not very good.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Friday the 13th Part 8 is absolutely disgusts a lot of people. So that's what I mean by bad entries. But Scream, like if you were going to give them all a score and then you pick out the average score of the whole franchise, I think Scream's average score might be higher than any other franchise. Maybe.
I don't think the other ones are as good as this one.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm talking about all the Screams, like the original Scream. But I'm guessing that the original Friday the 13th is the best one of all of them.
Probably not.
And Halloween.
The
I
original
mean, why
Halloween
would they
yeah.
make more sequels if it wasn't that good?
It was very good, but they actually had a couple sequels that I enjoyed more than the original in Friday the 13th. I like it better once Jason's the killer. Of course, he's not the killer in the first one, as is brought to our attention in this movie.
I just like the one, movies for the get-go. Like the initial one that introduces it to you, and then it doesn't get any better. I mean, it might be as good as, but I don't think they're really any better than the original introducing the idea. Like Saw and I mean, I love Final Destination, and the most recent one was great, and it was great for like the modern time, since that one was it's over 20 years old. But I think the original one that introduced us to that story was probably the best one. And then the next one was the second best.
You won't get any argument out of me. I agree with you on everything you just said there, like wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Scream is just a totally different, like even in this same genre, the setup and the realistic, because the other's more supernatural and this was not. This is this could really happen.
And for me, part of why the first Scream is the one I enjoy more than any of the other Screams is because you can't do something completely new twice.
Right.
It's only completely new once. And the whole meta awareness that sets up the framework for this was a completely new experience for me with the first one. By the time we see the second, well, we're expecting them to follow the tropes of a sequel. And then when you see the third one, the tropes of the final entry, the trilogy, whatever. So you don't get the same, the first time I saw Scream, I had no idea that movie buffs were going to be at the center of the movie.
Yeah.
And you remember conversations with me and my buddy Vicinanzo and stuff at happy hour in residency. This is the kind of conversations we would have. It's like, okay, so if there's a killer in town and he's following, so I could really relate to the Jamie Kennedy character as much as I don't really relate to the actor. Is that fair to say?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Do you think this is the most 90s movie ever? It's definitely the most 90s horror movie.
I think it's the most 90s horror movie, but not the most 90s ever.
That goes to American Pie, doesn't it?
Yes, there's that one. That one. And also, Clueless was in the early 90s.
Clueless
that was so 90s.
It is. I sometimes think of that as transcending time, but you're right. It is definitely a 90s movie.
But I think a lot of the ones, and the common thread here is they're all teenagers, based around teenagers. I think for a period of a whole decade really was, stories about teenagers and what it was like to be a teenager. And a lot of us, like myself and you too, in the earlier 90s, you could relate to what was going on.
It was the people that grew up on John Hughes movies in the 80s making their movies in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's my theory. I don't know if I'm right or not. The people may say that I'm an idiot, but even if they didn't like John Hughes movies, they were influenced by movies that were influenced by John Hughes movies, because it's clear that the 90s had a lot of folks who were trying to bring their own version of magic to the certain cohort of age, just like John Hughes did in the 80s.
But I do think that I think American Pie was probably the most 90s movie.
I can't disagree.
Yeah.
I really can't.
It was shocking for the things that they did, in that movie at the time. I remember seeing it at the theater and being like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that out loud. There's all these things that we kind of did and was kind of quieted, poo-pooed on, but all this stuff showed up, then the internet, then the video. I mean, it just kind of kicked off that whole generation, the generation to come. But I think it also summarized a lot of what the 90s was like, that was really like, as far as how teenagers talk to each other and the things that we were doing at the time. So
I agree with you on that.
But Scream was, I think it's a close second for sure.
When did American Pie come out? Which came out
98.
First? Okay, so at least this you could say was the earlier version of the most 90s movie ever. It had 2 years to rule before American Pie came out. Now, I once again, you go back to the Universal movie days. You even go back to some of the Hitchcock movies. You're going to get some star power in horror films, but then once slashers became the predominant taste around Black Christmas, you started to see that low budget was the way to go. And one easy way to go low budget is not to hire recognizable actors, non-union actors, things like that. So this feels like the first original horror movie with star power in my lifetime. At least really good one. And, sometimes they might throw something out here or there that didn't really stick.
Well, I really think it was a smart move to put Drew Barrymore at the beginning to be the first one killed, because just seeing her on the screen like sucked you in, because she was a very familiar face in just about every household. Everybody knew who she was. But I also feel like it was a smart move to get you to watch it. You know, even if they said, "Oh, a cameo by Drew Barrymore," or,
Yeah.
you know, you're trying to figure out where she was, but like that's what hooked me, was like, "Oh, if she's in this movie, then it must be really good."
And I'm pretty much the exact same age as Drew Barrymore, so it was
Mm-hmm.
real effective at bringing in those people who are, you know, the 20
Recognizable.
somethings. Well, you know, we
Yeah.
just graduated college. Some of
Yeah.
us are still in school, but some of us have our first job. Some of us are just out there kind of listless, and we
Mm-hmm.
got a little bit of time on our hands. So why not drag us into the movie theaters? Because people I know went to the theater to watch this 3, 4 times.
Well, even though she was your age at the time, what did you think about her playing a high school kid, though, that like 16 or 17, even though she's in real
I
life
mean,
22, 23?
I don't know. Sometimes when you're 22, 23 yourself, you feel like you're pretending to be an adult, but on the inside, you don't feel like you feel like you have imposter syndrome as an
Yeah.
adult at
Yeah.
that age. So it was pretty easy for me. I
Mm-hmm.
felt more comfortable with the way, understanding the way a high school kid acts than I did with understanding the way an adult man acts.
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy for me to relate to that.
Yeah. I think also too, with her acting ability, um, and her being able to hook the audience. I think and not just because she was a popular actor, she's a great
Yeah.
actress, and she did really well. And I think she set
Yes.
us up to believe that the characters that we were going to be introduced to are going to be just as good at acting as she is. So
Now, how does the Ghostface killer rank with you in terms of slasher movie bad guys like Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Chucky?
um I don't know. I mean, it was different. I feel like again, I think it goes with the 90s, like what we were dressing up like for Halloween. It wasn't like
I I
a specific look. Like we didn't have to, it could be anybody. You
I
know what I mean?
I think it was the perfect design for the MTV generation,
Yeah.
Gen X, basically.
Yeah.
Even though we're getting, it's still mostly Gen X folks going to see this. It'll be a little bit before we start to get the millennials coming out and pushing the horror movie narrative, as it were.
Hmm.
But I think that Ghostface works really well for the MTV generation, for Gen X folks, because it's like simple.
Yeah.
It's simple,
I
and
also
it's
think
high
it's unisex too. Like
yeah,
it could be anybody.
but it's also high contrast and simple, and it communicates an idea with the least amount of work, which is kind of what the grunge
Right.
aesthetic was.
Yeah. Hmm.
And you got to remember, this is 1996. These are people who their top 3 favorite bands are going to be Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Alice in Chains. So it's got that, like, I can't look like I care too much, but I still got to get the job done attitude. And this is just like throw it over your head and boom, you're ready to kill.
Yeah.
And it's also so loose and flowy that it doesn't give any clues whatsoever about who's underneath it, which is integral to the plot here and to this whole franchise. Is unlike most other horror franchises where you have a singular killer, here the killer is a persona that is adapted or adopted or taken up by various people in every movie. It's not the same person all the way through, as
Right.
far as I remember.
Yeah.
So this is Ghostface is excellent for that. And I think everything about him, you know, it had definitely influenced a little bit by that monk artwork, The Scream.
Yeah.
Isn't that what that's called, The Scream?
Mm-hmm.
And the name of the movie obviously
I
being
think it's
Scream.
Mooch or something like that. It's not how you. It's
Sandra
really not,
told me I pronounced it wrong and
Yeah.
corrected me to monk.
Yeah.
So I
something
say
like that.
monk because Sandra might watch this
Yeah.
someday. She's an art professor. Yes, I too sometimes teach art classes.
Yeah.
But anyway, the name of the movie is Scream. The name of that painting, isn't it called The Scream or something?
Yeah, The Scream.
So Wes Craven is not by any means an unintelligent man. I'm pretty sure he was a college professor before he went to making film, but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So he knew what he was doing when he made this killer look like Monk's artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate the aesthetics. I'm talking about the things that I should probably yield the floor to you when it comes to the artistic influences here. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think maybe he was influenced, but then also I think he might have been influenced by that little character on Super Mario Brothers too. Do you remember the one that has like it's got the hood and the masked face?
I do know who
Yeah,
you're
that's
talking
who I think
about.
it kind of looks like too.
And it would
That's
fit with the
kind of a 90s
generation. I
thing
mean,
too, right?
the MTV generation was also the Nintendo NES generation. So,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how'd you like the Freddy cameo when the principal looks out and the janitor's in the hallway?
Yeah, that was really cool. I really caught on to that.
Do you know who the actor was playing Freddy?
Was it Robert England? Like, did he do
No,
a
no,
cameo?
no. It was Wes Craven.
Oh, what?
It was Wes
That's
Craven
funny.
playing Freddy the
That's
janitor.
funny. I like that he can put some comedy in there and put himself in it.
Actually, Fred the janitor. He didn't want to call him Freddy because he didn't want to have to sue himself when the movie came out. But I love the Freddy cameo. That's part of that meta awareness. And then, there have been other people who bring comedy into their horror movies. Horror comedy is its own very vibrant genre.
Yeah.
But the comedy here just works on a different level, and it's in there and it's fun without making this movie a comedy.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I like that. And the killer stuff is played straight, but you still find yourself laughing at how dumb these high school boys are.
Oh my God,
but it
they're
makes
so
sense because high
stupid.
school boys are kind of stupid.
Yes. There's two like. Well, we'll talk about it here.
Well,
in a
let's
minute,
just go ahead. How do you
Okay.
like the two killers idea? That was one of the new things that this movie introduced to me.
I thought it was really cool. Like even the way they set up some of the scenes where they're being attacked or they didn't actually get killed, and then all of a sudden, you have kind of that little bit of a pop up scare where like Skeet Ulrich shows up in the window and he's like, "Hey," and you're like, "Wait a minute, okay." If you think that it's him, because in the beginning, I think we all think that it's him.
Yes.
And then he shows up and you're like, how did he do that? That's not possible. He can't be right there, but then also be right there. So I don't think we knew who the second person was until, towards the end when it was revealed. But I feel like we kind of started thinking that there was a second person about halfway through because some of the things weren't possible.
Yeah,
like why is he over here and he's not even at school? But then the Scream guy shows up in the bathroom and you're like, oh my goodness, like what is happening here? So, and they play on that too, that there's a lot of students dressed up like stupid boys running around with these Scream masks on, making fun of their classmates who just died, And I feel like that's the kind of thing that the kids were doing too.
So Wes Craven has a lot of years of directing and thinking about slasher movies and horror movies. And one problem is when Jason Voorhees kills someone and then slips away, how is he not like a turd in a punch bowl? How does but with this, you never know, is it Ghostface or is it just some other idiot? Because they say very early in the movie they only cost like $8 at the local Halloween store, and they report they've sold hundreds of them.
Yeah.
So it makes a way that Ghostface can disappear and blend in, because you never know, is it Ghostface or another jerk face?
And I think if you're like a horror critic about things happening in horror movies like me, I know there's so many times that I've had conversations with you about, okay, Michael Myers or whoever or Jason is chasing after this person in the woods and they're running as fast as they can and he's walking really slow. Like, is he taking like a 20-foot step each time? Because how in the world is he catching up to that person? So I think like they're speaking to those people who question those kind of moves in earlier horror genres, and that's why they added that second person for those people that were doubtful that this could happen like that and not be supernatural and be more realistic.
I can't remember the artist I'm trying to quote here, so I will apologize, but I think it was someone who came sometime after Picasso's peak. And when he was talking about his art and his art style, that it was important for it to be so impactful that no one could ever make Cubist art again because they would seem old-fashioned or they would seem out of touch. That was like what he thought really impactful art did, was change the state of the art, And I kind of feel like once Scream came out, you couldn't make an old style slasher again for a little while.
Right.
Like it destroyed the beautiful groundwork that John Carpenter had laid down before it, while also appreciating it and paying homage to it.
Right.
But you just couldn't go back to the same old formula anymore once this movie came out. And because of that one artist's sort of quote, I always think of that as a symbol of some landmark creative endeavor when it really just changes the state of the art the way Scream did. In my opinion, I'm just one guy.
Yeah.
Now, the two killer idea, the last thing I'll say about that is, in addition to the meta awareness and the movie killing trope, I didn't even know what the word trope meant when I saw this movie, but the discussion of all the tropes, that was really fresh. The two killers idea was almost extremely fresh, except I'd seen an episode of Picket Fences where that was the twist at the end, that there were these two gay men working together to be the killer while the sheriff was trying to figure out who the killer was. Each one of them kept having alibis when murders occurred, and then they had the reveal at the end. And I thought that was a great episode of a show I didn't really watch a lot.
Yeah.
And when I saw this, I obviously thought back to that, and I'm wondering if Kevin Williamson may have seen that episode, because I think it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility, but who knows? Who knows? I still love that two killers idea. Is Loomis the most common last name in scary movies? We have a Billy Loomis here. We have...
I didn't realize that was his last name.
Yeah, we have Billy Loomis here. Then, of course, you got Nancy Loomis.
I think these are all just Easter eggs. Like,
Oh, it definitely
you know what
is.
I mean?
So the Loomis name, well, I'm going to save the Loomis name for when we watch Halloween. Is that okay? But the Loomis name does appear in Psycho, Halloween, Scream, and some other things as well. So it's like everybody wants to pay homage.
It's got to be a breakdown to that word, or maybe Loomis is like for
I think it's
loony or something. Like there's got to be some kind of meaning.
I think it's just always an homage to Hitchcock, because he's probably the most influential horror director of all time, and they just keep doing that to pay homage to Hitchcock. And one of the actors in this movie changed her last name for the purposes of her credit to Nancy Loomis.
Oh my
so
goodness.
It's not even her real name, but yes, we got a Dr. Loomis and a Nancy Loomis in this. And
well, I think so. Okay, so let's talk about some of the Easter eggs then. So that was Loomis.
Yes.
Do you remember
And we talked about the Freddy cameo. That's another Easter egg.
Yes. And then Halloween is being shown on the TV. When they're all sitting around and watching it, and they're trying to like analyze. Jamie Kennedy's trying to analyze.
Could we discuss briefly the Halloween? Something I thought was beautiful about Halloween being on the TV.
Sure.
I might not be using the correct word, so please forgive me if I'm not. But I think it's called diegetic sound. When the sound that is providing the score for your movie is actually occurring from a source within the story.
Okay.
They use that so well when Ghostface was creeping through the house, and you hear the Halloween music because they're watching Halloween on TV, but it's like they're using the Halloween score for this movie. I love that. And if I'm using the wrong word, diegetic might not be the right word, but for some reason that's what keeps getting stuck in my nose.
It's a nice way to cross over if you don't know, like if you don't know what to put there, but it also connected really well. So.
And it's a nice way to rip off some great music without taking away the credit from where it belongs. You know, so I thought that was a really clever thing that you have to be really connected in the film industry like Wes Craven to be allowed to do that. You know, he's not going to let me and you do that. Carpenter would not. You know, but he'll let his buddy Wes do it, I guess.
Do you remember a part in the movie where Nev Campbell and Tatum are talking, and she says something about, you know, you could star in your own movie, and she said, "Oh, but they may cast Tori Spelling as my..."
Oh, I can't wait till we watch Scream 2. That comes back, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I thought that was funny. I was like, oh, they're making fun of it. So, but that also let our generation connect. These people are everyday people. Maybe they were watching 90210, you know, so.
And, you know, of course, it's great that they do cast Tori Spelling in Stab, the movie within a movie that shows up in the next movie, which I can't wait because we get more meta convo there.
Yep.
Did you have a favorite character here? This movie is packed with interesting and colorful characters. Definitely an ensemble cast where everybody gets that one personality trait except for Sydney.
Yeah, right? I know. Okay, so I know we've talked about this before. Matthew Lillard is my absolute favorite character in this, even though he ended up being a killer at the end. He did not stop with the comedy, even as he's dying. You know, so like some of my favorite lines for, I mean, he just, the cheesy faces he made.
Yes,
He
yes.
was like the class clown, which you didn't think that he was going to be one of the killers because why would it be him? Not the funny guy. But
I really expected Jamie Kennedy to be the killer.
nah, no, he knew too much. Like, I just, no, they weren't going to kill off the smart guy.
I just
Or they weren't going to make the smart guy.
Just the way he was obsessed with the tropes and the way the killer kept following the perfect tropes.
But I think that's what set it up. Like
that's
those
made
two
movie so grand.
The two dumbasses that ended up being, the killers or whatever. But then Jamie was kind of like leading them along. I think they kind of listened to him and followed what he was saying.
I love the scene where they're watching Halloween on TV and somebody's coming up behind one of the babysitters and Jamie Kennedy's saying, "Turn around, you dumbass, they're right behind you." And meanwhile, Ghostface is creeping up right behind Jamie Kennedy as he's yelling at what a dumbass they are on the movie screen. That kind of meta stuff. I'm a sucker. You don't have to work hard to please me.
Yeah.
I tell you what I want, so just give it to me and I'll be happy.
But also in that scene where he's with a bunch of the kids and they're all like, they're drunk or whatever watching that movie.
Yeah.
And then he said, Matthew Lillard said he was going to the kitchen to get some beer or something like that. And he was like, don't say I'll be back. And he goes, I'll be back. That's where I think they were actually listening to him and following some of those tropes that you were talking about. But he says two of my favorite lines in this movie so he gets stabbed. They are revealed themselves as the killers, but they're trying to paint it as if they killed her because she went after them or whatever. So at the end, they had this agreement where they were going to stab each other. And so Skeet Ulrich's character, Billy, he like stabs him a couple more times. I always wondered about that. Like, why is Matthew Lillard's character getting stabbed more than Billy? I think Billy was the stronger one and probably the more evil one.
I think Billy wanted to kill Matthew Lillard because that would be the only person who knew how they pulled it off.
Yeah.
And can we talk a little bit about their relationship?
In a minute.
Okay.
Let me talk about the lines that he delivered that I loved.
Let's hear it.
So the very first one is when Skeet Ulrich had stabbed him a couple more times. And then the phone rings, and then I think, I don't think the phone rang yet. But Billy couldn't find Neve Campbell and her dad or something. And he walks behind him and he like hits him in the back of the head with the phone. He goes, "Oh man, you hit me with the phone, you dick." Like, I love that part because that was something that like you didn't hear in movies, like teenagers actually said, as that's how we spoke. And then the second one was when Neve Campbell was on the phone after they figured out that she was gone, and she calls and he answers the phone and she tells him what she had done, that she'd called the police, and he picks up the phone and goes, "Did you really call the police? My mom and dad are gonna kill me."
That was my favorite line.
I love that because that is like something that we would say.
Line.
Like he was probably he was not the smart one out of the two. I mean, they were both stupid, but he was probably the worst one. And it just made sense. Like, I feel like some of my friends, or even myself, if I had been in that situation, would have been like, "Oh my God, my parents are going to kill me when they find out that I've been killing people."
I agree with you on that one. I thought that was great. I really did. So,
all right, let's talk about this relationship.
Okay,
that
good.
About.
I kind of get the idea, and there have been some other critics who sort of pushed out this possibility. But the idea is that Matthew Lillard's character is in love with Skeet's character, and Skeet knows that, so he's using that attraction to manipulate Matthew Lillard into being his accomplice, his accessory, but he's not actually returning that love to Matthew Lillard, but he's such a psychopath, he'll do whatever it takes to accomplish what he wants. And that the part of stabbing Matthew Lillard like that is because he's kind of angry at Matthew Lillard about the affection he has given him along the way to get him to be his accomplice.
I mean...
Yeah, but I like that idea of unrequited love.
I don't know. Like, maybe he dated all these... Matthew Lillard's character dated all these girls because he wanted to cover up the fact that he was gay. I don't know. Because, did you catch in the middle of the movie that Drew Barrymore... her character was his ex-girlfriend.
I did kind of catch that because
I feel like maybe he was really in love with her and she burned him somehow, and she that's why he ended up killing her.
Well, first. Didn't he kill her boyfriend before he killed her? So that's even.
Sorry. I had to sneeze. You told me not to sneeze into the microphone.
Thank you for not sneezing.
But I didn't turn my head either, so
that's okay.
Anyway, well, I think he killed her boyfriend. Maybe she cheated on him with this guy. So he dragged the boyfriend into it first. That's kind of what I was thinking. You know, but then also if he felt that strongly about that boyfriend and her, then why? But he was in love with somebody else, then why would he kill her first? So, I mean, I think it goes back to all that. But he could also have been bisexual. I don't know. Or he just didn't like people that, hurt him. Hurt people. So
I've never heard that. That makes sense. Hurt people. Uh-huh. Did you have a favorite character in this action-packed movie?
Yeah, it was him.
Okay, just making sure.
Matthew Lillard. Did you have a favorite? Because you hadn't answered the question yet.
I think my favorite in this is probably Sydney. She's great. I like Neve Campbell's character.
She's so flat, though, in this. I don't know. She's
the central character. She's the final girl.
What do you like about her, though? I think you were just in love with her in the first place before she was even in this.
Huh.
Because of that show, because you said something about how you really liked Neve Campbell and Denise Richards in Wild Things.
No, yeah. I don't think it's that. I think I just liked her subtle performance.
Sure. I don't think that's what it is.
So, what did you think of the ending? This has a pretty memorable, cool ending with Gail. What's Gail's last name? King?
Weathers.
Gail King's a totally different person.
Yeah.
Gail Weathers coming in and trying to save the day and failing, and then the second time she succeeds in saving the day. Dewey, poor Dewey getting hauled off in the ambulance. What did you think?
I thought it was a great ending. We didn't know who was going to end up surviving, there for a little bit because there were so many people that were getting killed, getting stabbed or whatever. So we didn't know who actually lived, who died, because it would change scenes so quickly. And then someone would pop up and be like, oh, I thought that they died, and especially like the Billy character when he disappeared. That was something that shows up in other movies, in horror movies, where you think that they had died, but then they disappeared and you're like, oh, crap. So they weren't actually dead. And then also the part where you thought Billy was really dead. And then Jamie's like, this is the moment where he's going to attack you. He's going to sit up. And that's so true. And some of the other things that we've seen, he sat right up like he was going to, kill her or go after her again. And she shot him. That was probably one of my favorite shots right there, is when she shot him in the head, and that bullet hole was perfect bullet hole right there.
I did like
that. Was a good special effect. So
yeah. When did Dewey and Gail finally get together? Is it in the next movie?
Yeah, but you could see it happening in this. I think in the beginning, she wasn't really attracted to him. She was just using him to get closer to the story. Yeah. But then as things started happening to them, I think that's when she started falling for him.
So you like the ending?
I did. I really liked the ending. Yeah, I think it wrapped it up really well, and it made fun of other movies that used those tropes that you were talking about.
I don't know if I can think of very many other examples where they have a wonderful, beautiful, nearly perfect cold opening and a wonderful, beautiful, nearly perfect ending. You can almost slap anything you want in the middle and it's still going to be a good movie, but they give us a good middle too. So.
Oh yeah.
Any themes you want to mention from this, or any themes you notice, anything worth discussing?
I guess you don't really know who your friends are or something. You know what I mean? You can't trust everybody. It really is something about, I think it has a lot to say about trusting people and I feel like there's a theme somewhere where, okay, back to you can't trust everybody. Even Neve Campbell didn't know that her mom was a slut. What they say in there, she didn't believe it. But apparently she really was. So she couldn't even trust her parents.
Yeah.
I think her dad was probably the most innocent, one of the more innocent characters in this, but I don't think anybody was able to really trust anybody with anything in this.
Yeah. I think for me, the themes that I kind of picked up on were mostly the stuff you see in movies about movies, like a movie about making movies and self-awareness and meta-awareness. I also think there's a little bit of life imitates art, because we're supposed to be watching something that's happening in real life, but they're saying how it seems to mysteriously follow horror movie tropes. And then the reason it follows the horror movie tropes is because the killers are intentionally following horror movie tropes. There's a reason life imitates art. We watch 3,000 hours a year of sitcoms that are set at the workplace, and we think that's what workplace banter is supposed to be like, so we start imitating the art. You know, it's kind of crazy, but the tail does wag the dog a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a theme in here. And other than that, it's just there's always a new way to tell an old story. Also, even though something is very formulaic, it is still having value and can still say something creative and artistic while not veering from the formula.
Yeah.
Acknowledging the formula. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging what you're doing. I like all that, but I can't put too much concrete out of that.
Before we move forward, let's back up and talk about makeup and effects, because we didn't really talk about that.
In interest of time, I sort of lollipopped over that.
That's okay. This is a good one to talk about. I thought it was great. It was very simplistic, very straightforward. I think one of the more interesting parts was when Matthew Lillard says, you know, how did you do all that fake blood? And he's like, cornstarch, you know. He was talking about exactly how they do it. And so I think when I heard that part, I was thinking about the movie that you made with the kids and how red cornstarch, the stain just gets stains everything, stains your clothes, stains all over the place. And then also our son is, you know, a theater kid, and our other two kids are real heavy into like the tech part. So I think it was really interesting to hear them like talk about how they made it look more bloody and more realistic, and you know, that they had actually been attacked too, which they hadn't at the time, but then they started, you know, stabbing each other and stuff. But probably my favorite special effect, and which was also so unrealistic and stupid, was when Tatum got her head smashed in the garage door. And then when Nev, like, when Sydney shows up and sees her like hanging from the garage door, all I could think about was those motors aren't strong enough to do that. We have those security things that like trip it, and maybe at the time we didn't have those things. I feel like when we had a garage door at my grandma's house, that we didn't have those lines, that like the invisible lines that would keep you from like tripping the door if something was blocking the way. If you were backing out, you just hit the door, or you had that pull cord in the actual like garage door motor. But the way she tried to get through that hole, and the way she was moving her feet when she was running on the floor, and I'm like, that doggy door, or, you know, pet door was big enough for her to fit through. Why couldn't she fit through there? She definitely could have fit all the way through there. I think she just panicked. But then when the door picked up this 100-pound person and just smashed her head like that was no. But the special effects were really good.
I think Home Improvement was still on the air at this time, and maybe Tim the Toolman Taylor gave it more power, and that's why I was able to do that.
Yeah. Did you also notice in that whole scene, and this is like really, this is just me like looking at it for like just not as a female, but like that whole scene where she's going into the garage and then she's, you know, getting smashed by the garage door. Was she wearing a bra? Because her boobies her nipples were so pointed in that whole scene. That's what I know. It was crazy. As soon as she walks out of the house, the first thing you see when she goes into the garage, I'm like, I feel like that she's getting this beer for her boyfriend and all the people in there. I think that was a set up to be a very I don't know. In some ways, I feel like it's kind of sexist, kind of, as she's getting the beer for her boyfriend and all the males in the house or whatever. But then also, she's walking in and she's got these big boobs and these pointed nipples, and you know that the boys were gonna like, oh my God, you know. I think that scene was made for the boys.
Well, I think it probably was. I don't.
That's the only time that I ever saw anything crazy like that in that movie.
I'm going to go ahead and go first on favorite kill.
Okay.
Because my favorite kill was Tatum in the garage door, and I'm not lying.
Oh, my God.
I love that kill. It's the most memorable. It's the one I think about the most from this, and maybe it's because of the nipples. I'm not going to argue. I don't know.
Sure. No. I think, no. I think My favorite kill was probably Matthew Lillard's character, even though I really liked him and I didn't want him to die. Just the way that they did it, and because he was still talking. I rewound that scene
He keeps talking
5
the whole time.
times. Like he said something about you should have picked me or something like that, and she said never, and he goes, you bitch, and he's actively dying, and he's on the floor. He just punched her in the face. She rolled off, and he's still laying there, and she takes the TV and knocks it over, and he's getting electrocuted or whatever. And at the end, I couldn't quite figure out what he said, but I think he said something like, I hope you die, or something like that. You're dead. That's what he said.
Yeah.
He said, you're dead. And you think that he's dead, but is he really dead? Because he's supposed to be dead. But you see him like convulsing as if he's like shocked. But then when he stops moving, he just says, you're dead.
And then they say something about the Carrie ending, and she says, not in my movie.
Yeah.
Biatch or something like that.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite shot? There's some really cool shots in this movie.
I probably did have one, but
Is it okay if I go in?
Yeah,
and talk
you
a
go
little bit
first,
while you're
because that
thinking?
might jog my memory a little bit more.
I think most of my shot, I honestly think my favorite shot, and it's a composite. I mean, it's multiple shots put together for a cool little sequence. But I think my favorite is when Jamie Kennedy's pointing at the TV and yelling, and what's going on behind Jamie.
I think I kind of like that.
I like
even
that shot.
though it was on a 30-second delay, and so they didn't realize that the killer had come out. But I did like watching the television inside the van,
which is of a guy watching television inside the house.
Yeah, and so you're seeing what's going on.
And then while they are noticing that the monster is creeping up behind Jamie Kennedy, who's noticing that the monster's creeping up behind Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
We also get a monster creeping up behind the people watching the guy watching the girl. You know what I mean?
It works on really so layered. Levels. Yeah.
Meta. This is a meta movie for show.
Yeah.
Scare grade. This one
spooked
the bejeebers. Yeah.
A+.
I'm going to give it an A, not an A+.
Oh, I think it's an A+.
Not as scary for me as Paranormal Activity.
Yeah. Okay. Scare grade, like scary. I think I was getting it confused with how well was it done.
Yeah, that's the pumpkin.
I mean,
I
don't know. I think more of an A+ for me, just because I was that age of the characters in the movie, and because I could relate to it. I know you were living on your own or whatever, but like I could relate to the things happening.
Living on my own would have been way less scary, but I won't go into it.
I could relate to the things happening, because I still lived in my parents' house. Yeah. We still used these things. I was still going to high school, so, and we were all into the horror stuff. So
I had the cordless phone that looked exactly like the one in this movie. So that scared me. That was in my little apartment in Spring Valley. All right. So my scare grade is A, yours is A+. What is your robust, bountiful pumpkin rating?
A 5.
No,
absolutely.
You can't be anything else.
No.
This is a Mount Rushmore of horror movies.
Yeah.
So it can't be anything other than 5 pumpkins. And, people are free to disagree, because this is a world where you can be wrong if you want to.
It should be like a horror-y.
Yeah.
Call it instead of a comedy mixed with horror, a horror-y.
Yeah.
Because I would recommend this to anybody, like people who don't even like horror movies. And I think the ones who don't like horror movies are the ones that are thinking of like the gore, the supernatural factor. I think people like my sister, who doesn't like horror movies, would actually like this movie, because it's more believable.
Well, with that, I think we're going to say that's an end to day 12. And, until next time, like we always say, make art, consume art, do what you love what you do. Most importantly, don't ever give up.
You can use